Bort? Oh, come on, Bort?
Mommy, buy me a license plate!
No, come along, Bort.
Are you talking to me?
Hello and welcome to the Bort Experience, a Simpsons podcast. I'm your host, Cody Galat, and today we are on episode 9, Life on the Fast Lane with the Simpsons. So, first, just real quick, I just want to say thank you so much. I just hit a huge milestone on the channel, 200,000 total views. So thank you so much for subscribing. I think last time I checked, I was around 119 subscribers on YouTube. So please go support me and like and comment. And I've been enjoying having conversations not only on social media, but in the comments as well. So thank you so much. So let's go ahead and jump into the episode. It originally aired in March 18th, 1990. It was written by John Swartzwelder and directed by David Silverman. Another John Swartzwelder written episode. Like I said, he's, I think, credited as the most written episodes of any writer of the show. And this is another great, fantastic episode, in my opinion. So there was no couch or chalkboard gag in this episode. Like I had mentioned in previous episodes, they kind of shrink or eliminate those when needed, and I think they needed the full episode to kind of really tell the story, and I think they did a very great job. So the overview: having forgotten about Marge's birthday, Homer rushes to the Springfield Mall and impulsively buys a bowling ball. Marge is not impressed with the gift after discovering that he intends to use it. She decides to spite him by going to the bowling alley herself. While at the alley, she meets Jock, a charming French bowling instructor who offers her lessons. Jock begins to fall for Marge and invites her to his apartment. Although she agrees, Marge undergoes a moral dilemma. In the end, Marge visits Homer at the nuclear power plant. So that's the kind of brief summary. So this episode really dives into a very topic that I feel like a lot of people have either experienced, like maybe if their parents ever got a divorce, or maybe one parent cheated on the other parent, or maybe someone's cheated on you. Hopefully you haven't cheated on anyone. But I feel like it's a thing that at least people in some way have either known someone, or maybe even someone in their own family have experienced, unfortunately. And it's something that really can tear a family apart. And I feel like this is one of those episodes where, and you can kind of tell, that John Swartzwelder, he can write funny because he wrote that Bigfoot episode a couple episodes ago, but then he also writes this one. I believe he wrote The Moaning Lisa as well, if I remember correctly, but I might not be remembering that right. But some of the more, this is like a heavy topic, and and you don't really see this too often, I feel like, in sitcoms, at least at the time, and maybe now it's more prevalent about cheating and stuff, but it's a very strong thing. And my policy is always, hey, if you don't love the person or want to be with them, you should just break it up instead of going behind their back. I think it's one of the worst betrayals that you can do to a person. And I'm not even saying hey, you have to get married or anything. What I'm just saying is, hey, if you kind of enter into this relationship and one person is under the impression that, hey, it's just me and you, and then you bring a third person or you cheat on that person, I feel like that's one of the worst things you can do. And now if it's an open relationship, yeah, whatever, I don't really care. But it's I just think, for me personally, just break up with the person. But I think people are scared or they're comfortable, and it's well, this person takes care of all these things, and I just am bored of them. And I just think it's very sad and honestly pathetic that people do that. I've known people, and I'm just man, you're so trash, and they brag about it, and it's this weird thing. And I just find it very distasteful and just disgraceful, honestly. I do like the fact that Homer, in a selfish way, buys her the ball, and a bowling ball, even engraves it with his name. And to spite him, she goes to the bowling alley. So Homer is kind of the root of some of this, strife in their marriage. When people feel like they're not being, if they're not being appreciated, it drives people to do these kind of things. and I feel like communication is always key, and you have to both parties have to tell the other how they feel, and they need to be able to have open conversations. And I feel like that can get through a lot of these things. And maybe it is a thing where it's like, hey, this isn't working out and we need to move on, which is fine. But then also, hey, if we can find common ground, or if like, hey, this is making me feel this way, I think that can really like push a relationship forward. But Marge decides to go to the bowling alley. She doesn't know how to bowl. She's never been. I like how she's going out of spite. It's a very like Seinfeld thing, or Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's an episode where Larry David opens up the coffee shop right next door. It's a spite store. And I think there's another episode of Seinfeld where he's returning something out of spite. And they have a policy, well, we can't accept that for spite. And I just think it's kind of like a funny way to look at things, where a lot of people will do things that are kind of crazy just to spite someone because they've done them wrong. So I just thought that was a funny element. I also I don't know if this is the first episode that we've seen it, or maybe the second, where Barney's Bolorama. It's like, oh, Barney, the guy from the bar who ends up being Homer's best friend, he owns the bowling alley. Or is it? Yeah, I think it's Barney. Yeah, Barney's bowling alley. Yeah. For some reason, I thought it was maybe Barney's brother owned it, but I think it's just Barney. But so I think that's kind of like a cool little lore thing where each of these characters work at is one of those things you compile of the history of the characters, especially the side ones. So I thought that was kind of a great touch. We later find out that bowling is something that Homer loves a lot, so it will definitely come back into play. Marge meets Jacques, like we said in the description. He's voiced by Al Brooks, who helped create the show, and he's a scumbag character in my opinion. He does a great job doing that, but it's just like these guys that you've probably seen before, where they kind of prey on vulnerable people, and he's just so disgusting. There's a scene where he's like, hey, I'm gonna strike out tonight, and it was a different kind of strikeout. Instead of bowling, he got a 3 strikes and you're out, and Marge didn't choose him, which made me happy type of thing, because he's just so slimy, and he had some great lines and stuff, but he knows how you can tell Marge isn't the first person he's done this. And he even says in the episode, it's not about the act, it's not about the feelings, it's about the anticipation. So for him, it's not even I don't even think he really cares about Marge that much. I think it's more just oh, I'm stealing this from another guy's. It's I'm taking her from another person, not that she's a property or anything, but just that mentality of it's not even about her feelings really, it's more about me, which I find very distasteful. But I think the episode kind of shows how not all members of the family react to an event like this, or a potential, hey, there's really strain on the marriage. Lisa and Bart go through these different stages of grief. Homer becomes depressed because I think he kind of knows hey, something's going on. He tries in his bumbling way to say he really cares about Marge, talking about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which I ate for many years as a kid. So it's just kind of funny thinking about, I never thought so much on a peanut butter jelly sandwich as much as Homer does when he's trying to explain how Marge has a gift for making the sandwich, which I thought was in a kind of a sad, kind of loving way. He really loves his family and his Marge, but sometimes he just doesn't think. And the whole buying a bowling ball kind of proves that, and just not showing that it's like when you don't appreciate someone until you lose them, and then you're like, man, I didn't realize how good I had it, or how good of a friend or a partner or a family member they were until they're gone. And that could either be through a divorce or a dispute. I've had friends where something happened and then we don't talk anymore, and it's just kind of it's sad, but sometimes it's better just to move on. But then sometimes you're oh, maybe if certain things were said or brought up, or we had more communication, maybe things would be different. So I just feel that's what Homer's problem is. He's just they make him not a very intelligent character, but he has kind of like a really good heart, I think, and most of the time his heart's in the in the right place. It's just tough to kind of go through this, and I think he kind of accepts it as an like it's over, and the kids are affected, and then how Marge. I really like how she keeps saying she's a married woman and like she feels bad, but she has this dream, and this isn't the first episode that they've had these kind of weird dream sequences. I think it's a way for the writers and the creators to kind of go. Like, I know it's a cartoon, but then it also makes it even more fantastical when they go into these dream sequences, and they appear in a lot of other episodes as well. But it's kind of like black and white, and they're like dancing in the bowling alley, Marge and Jock, and she's about to sleep with them, and she kind of wakes up and decides like right then like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. And then as she's driving to Jock's apartment, she it's kind of like a jokey way, but it's like every time she stops at a red light or a stop sign, she sees like, oh, a family eating a picnic, or two people that like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, their gravestones, or two old people, or a family walking with their kids. And I don't like using guilt as a way to manipulate people, but I think it was kind of a way for her to be like, "Hey, what is my true feelings? Yeah, I'm mad at Homer, but do I want to like am I done with my family? Am I not done, but like am I wanting to break this family apart right now? Am I to a place where there's no way for us to reconcile, it's completely over?" And I don't think she was to that point, and maybe in further seasons she does get to that point. And I think they're all still together, but you know what I mean, there might be other conflicts, and I know they fight, but I think a lot of people that are in a relationship that happens, but I think you have to be able to communicate and tell the other person how you're feeling. And I just think cheating's is just not the way to go. I mean, like legitimately, like just say, "Hey, I don't want to be with you anymore," and then do whatever process that is, either break up or divorce or separation, and then just kind of move on. Because I feel like that causes a lot less pain. I know it's the harder thing to do, but I just think that that's how people should do it. But a lot of people don't, unfortunately. But some of the other key things that I liked about the episode were Patty and Selma were really funny at the birthday dinner. They're kind of making fun of Homer, how he's eating the steak. And one of the great lines, I think Patty says, is, "Do you know the Heimlich?" And then I think Selma said no. And then they just kind of start laughing in their smoke, voice, their smoking voice. Bart slowly freaking out, like him and Lisa are on different stages of the grief or the denial or sadness and fear. I thought that was great. And then just kind of Homer trying to spend time with the kids and not knowing what to do, because usually he's the one going out either to the bars or the bowling alley or with his friends. So kind of like that different dynamic. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic episode that really kind of showcased Marge as a character. And I'm going to kind of skip ahead just really quick because I've been talking about Marge a lot, and just say Marge is the MVP of the episode, in my opinion. It's the first time that we actually get like really great development of her character and how she's feeling, and not just as a mom, but she's like, hey, she's a person and she's part of the family, but she also has her own wants and feelings. And I feel like it's showcased so well, and I'm glad that the show doesn't just focus on one character. I know a lot of people at the beginning thought Bart was the main character, so you got to focus all the time on Bart or Homer. But I'm like that we get to see Lisa and Marge, and I know Maggie not as much, but there's some big things coming with her in future seasons. But overall, Marge, fantastic and well-deserved MVP of the episode. Let's jump back up to the citizens of Springfield. In this segment, I just list off the cast and characters of the episode. So we have Dan Castanella as Homer Simpson, Julie Carvener as Marge Simpson, Patty and Selma, We have Nancy Cartwright as Bart Simpson, Yardley Smith as Lisa, Harry Shearer as Lenny, and Al Brooks as Jock, and then Maggie Roswell as Helen Lovejoy, and the singing waiters. Helen kind of shows up, and they make her so she's like a gossip, and they make her eyes. She looks like a wasp or some kind of bee or some kind of bug, and they I think they did that intentionally. And I know this character kind of gets really like that annoying type gossipy church person that I'm sure a lot of people know in the future. So it's nice to always get these new characters that aren't just one-offs, and then they'll continue on throughout the years. All right, so next we're going up to best joke, and I think the best joke of the episode happens actually at the very end. There were some pretty good lines. I think majority of it was just focusing on Marge and the story, which there were jokes, but it was just a very more serious story in my opinion than it was like a popcorn joke episode. But there was a great joke at the very end in my opinion, and it's Homer picks up Marge and carries her past a cheering coworker. So this is at the very end when she decides to go to the nuclear power plant instead of Jock. And, people are shouting, "Way to go, Homer, way to go, Homer." And then there's one worker that says, "We tell the boss, Homer, tell him I'm going to the back seat of my car with my woman I love, and I won't be back for 10 minutes. 10 minutes seems a little generous, but I thought that was a fantastic line to end the episode on. And overall, like I said, it was a great episode. It's one of my favorites so far of the season, just because I like the episodes that not only are we dealing with jokes and serious topics, but we also have character specific exploration, and it helps kind of build the characters. And I think that's what the beauty of television is, even back in the 90s, is you have so many episodes to build on what certain characters are and what they do. All right, and our last segment, we got trivia, and this one's a fun one. So I'll read the question. In Marge versus the Monorail, who does Quimby think Leonard Nimoy is? Marge versus the Monorail is my favorite episode of the show. I mean, it could change, because I'm going back through and I haven't seen every episode. But I love that episode. It was written by Conan O'Brien. The musical numbers, the story, it's like fantastic. I can't wait to get to that episode. It's probably going to take a while because I can't remember what season it is. I want to say it's like 5 or 6. So it's definitely going to be a while, but I can't wait. All right, I'm going to read the question again, and then we're going to answer. In Marge versus the Monorail, who does Quimby think Leonard Nimoy is? Answer: one of the Little Rascals. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Bort Experience. Oh yeah, I got on the shirt count. I need to get a shirt counter. I think this is number 6 or 7 maybe. But my wife got this awesome shirt that kind of has like this weird psychedelic kind of drawing of how the characters look. I have another new shirt as well, so I need to start doing a counter in each episode when I get a new shirt and what I'm up to. But thank you so much. Please check out the channel on the Noob News Network. Please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on this episode about separation, cheating, and how that's affected you potentially in your life or your friends. And until next time, peace out. If you enjoyed this review, please subscribe to the Noob News Network on Patreon, YouTube, and social media. Thank you, and have a great day.